Good evening, everybody. I call to order the Select Board meeting Tuesday, February 18th at 7 p.m. I think the time now is a little bit past that, 7:05. I see a quorum of the Select Board in the hall. We have Member Lucito, Member Deborah Roberts, Vice Chair Scott Carrera, Select Board Member Joe McCrisky, myself. So with the quorum present, open our Select Board meeting. And if you are able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. I'm going to take just one item out of order at the very front end. I know that we have a number of obituaries, and I do want to give Select Board Member Joe McCrisky an opportunity to read those at the front end of the meeting. Mr. McCrisky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we know, some of these can be lengthy, so I will shorten them greatly, unfortunately, because each of these people that I'll mention have been a value, a gift to the town of Stoughton. Some of us will remember a school teacher, wife of a firefighter, very well known, worked in a couple doctor's offices and so forth. But and I'll take them down. I apologize. I'll go down the list as they appear. These were all listed as on Farley's website. Jacqueline R. Bishop, who was the wife of late firefighter Ronnie Bishop, who passed on years ago, and she was 82, died on February 11th at the Copley after lengthy declining in health. And it goes on, she worked for so many people, visiting nurses. You know, she was very active in Stoughton with the food pantry. She was a graduate of Massasoit College, Brockton Hospital School of Nursing, the Stoughton Fire Department with training programs that she ran in her nursing area. She was with the AmeriCorps in Taunton, Rosie's Place in Boston, and the list goes on. But those of us that will remember Jackie, she's survived by her children, Timothy of Sandwich, Paula Kimball and her husband, Paul of Taunton. And they list many grandchildren, as well as being the sister of Joan Barrett, who is the wife of the past DPW Water and Superintendent Bob Barrett. So these are people that have had roots in Stoughton for a long time, and definitely offer our condolences to the Bishop family. Then we also have Anthony Guerrieri, and most of the people that are in their 50s and 60s, and if you played youth baseball in Stoughton, you'll remember Anthony Guerrieri. He has to be the longest serving umpire ever to play. And he was tough, but he was fair. He was good to kids. And Anthony is the dad to Danny, who is our custodial staff here at Town Hall and the DPW library, I believe, Tom, a couple of. And again, his wife, Millie, Tony was 84. He died on the 8th of February. And again, the list goes on. He worked over at St. John the Evangelist as the director of maintenance and for the church and all their properties. And then it goes on that Tony was very active, and anybody knows, with civic groups. And it is, especially with Little League, Babe Ruth, Legion Ball, longtime umpiring coach. Tony was active with St. James Church. He was a Eucharistic minister, CYO advisor, pre-Cana volunteer, and he delivered Meals on Wheels and called bingo games at the Council on Aging. He was an avid golfer, active at the Norwood Country Club, the Stoughton YMCA, and many others. Tony is survived by his wife, Millie Howard Guerrieri, survived by his sons, Tony, Stephen, Daniel, and Scott. And again, on behalf of the board, in Tony's memory, we offer our condolences to the family and wish him eternal peace. Joan Kelly Sweeney, Mrs. Sweeney, 92, passed away. Stoughton, she was born and raised in Stoughton, attended St. Mary's, graduated Stoughton High School. And Joan married her husband, Ray, and was a third grade teacher at the Stoughton Central District, as they view it here. And she was also a teacher at the Gibbons School, a great Celtics fan, sports fan. And it says here, she always dressed in the green and cheering on, from her floor seats, which is impressive. Floor seats, second row at the Celtics game. So God bless her for having that. But again, her family is an extensive family, grandchildren. So again, being a value to Stoughton, and one of the greatest gifts is to teach a child and to make a difference in a child's life. So I would offer on behalf of my colleagues wishes for the family, for the sweet memories that they'll always share and cherish with Joan, and wish Joan eternal peace. And just recently, February 15th, Francis William Scarpaci, 75, longtime resident of Stoughton, retired from the Stoughton DPW, long time cook at Town Spa. Probably we didn't see him, but we sure as heck enjoyed his pizzas. And he was in Accent Care Hospice, in Milton after failing health. Well, he was, I'll tell you, he was pretty darn vocal when we had an Olympic award winner. He was a fan and was always asking me about that, and he did get to meet Frederick as well, which was a great thing. So he was also a graduate of high school in Hyde Park and Public Works, Water Department. He retired in 2015 at the age of 55. And again, avid sports guy. I mean, it seems like most of the people I know are avid sports people, and I'm not. But Frank as well, Scott will know, he was a member of the C.W. Welch Fish and Game Reserve and life member of the NRA. He was past secretary and past president of the Stoughton Lions Club, which some of us will remember from those days. So again, the graveside services on this one is Friday, February 21st. And again, wish the family, sincere condolences. And Fred, I'm saying Fred, Frank, for all of us that knew him, the guy would make you laugh. He was just a ton of fun. And every once in a while, he'd give you a little jab without you knowing it, and then you'd laugh over it. But his sense of humor will be missed. And again, condolences. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Krisky. So we'll go back to item number 2. This is citizens' comments. Are there any citizens who would like to speak? Mr. Tagnoni, it's great seeing you as always. I'm not going to set a timer. We try to keep these things within 2 or 3 minutes.
I'm short, so
I appreciate
should be hopefully within the 2 minutes easy. I appreciate it, and thank you, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Again, I'm here before the board. As you all know, I've been here a couple of times recently expressing concerns about the budget, and now the no vote for the debt exclusion to build the much-needed elementary school. In 2016, this was the town, since 2016, this has been the town's third debt exclusion vote. The high school passed overwhelmingly with a turnout of about 22% of the voters, 79% voting in yes. The fire station had a 8.9% voter turnout. It passed it with the 69% of the voters voting yes. The new elementary school had a 23% voter turnout with 55% of the voters voting against the debt exclusion. The high school and the elementary school turnout were close to being the same. The results were very different, though. As I looked at these differences and in talking with residents, the majority voted no to raise their taxes versus voters who felt that the school design was not the best, is not what the town needs. As I had said before, there are families, not just seniors, that just can't afford this on top of everything else, that all the other increases. The select board had an opportunity to provide residents with some relief from the debt exclusion by talking about and trying to pay for a portion of this out of the general fund, but for some reason hasn't. And it seems like we're doubling down on this and rolling the dice for a winner-take-all type vote. Maybe I have missed a selectmen's meeting that publicly discussed part of the general fund to be provided for tax relief for the residents, and that the board had decided that we couldn't afford to. So if I did, I apologize for that. Either way, I feel the board in the town is missing an opportunity to demonstrate to the residents that we heard them by supporting using at least a portion of the general fund to pay for the new school and provide some much-needed relief to those residents. So my follow-up to this is more of a comment, maybe a suggestion, and I haven't looked at all the timelines to see if this is even feasible, and it does come with some potential risks or whatever if you actually move forward, because it could give people a reason to vote in a different direction. But should the debt exclusion fail on April 8th, we all know we're looking at the modular classrooms as probably as the option with a cost of, could be up to $40 million. It's between 22 and 40, depending on if they're attached to the schools or not, and some other criteria. And then plus on top of that, my understanding is there's some work that needs to be done to the Wilkins, which may not be eligible for reimbursement from the MSBA, bringing the cost, for the numbers I'm seeing online, and again, I'm not sure if this is true, which would be over the $65 million, which would be the town's portion of the new elementary school. So the MSBA has a meeting at the end of this February. They will be voting to extend the town's deadline to notify them of the vote results to April 22nd. The board, if it so chooses, may have time, and this is the timeline I haven't looked into, has time to call a special town meeting as a placeholder by opening a warrant no later than next week and close by the following week. If we all believe the new elementary school plan is the best plan for the community, which I believe we do, then we should find a way to pay for it within the budget as voted by the residents. This would likely mean a good portion of the new growth from the North Stoughton Logistics Park would go towards funding the new school. This would require a new vote at town meeting before the April 22nd deadline. I did take the town manager up and met with him and the assistant town manager and the town accountant. I thanked them for the meeting. I'm not sure that the $4 to $6 million is what we're probably going to expect anymore from the meeting from the logistics park, but just some thoughts that I've had. When I come before you, I'm trying to be positive and not negative, and I just wanted to share that with you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your comments. Have a wonderful evening, and it's great seeing you as always. Next, we have select board comments. Are there any comments people would like to make? I'll start with Mr. Gito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two. The first one is we had a discussion a few weeks ago about starting to negotiate a contract with the police chief. I think we ought to get to that. I'm just wondering if we might be able to start that process at our next meeting, because that contract runs out, I believe, in June, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
So what you're discussing is a conversation we had in executive session, and
Sorry.
what you're discussing is a conversation that we had in executive session,
Yes.
and I would like to cover that in an executive session,
Oh,
not in
yes.
public session.
Of course.
Okay.
But I was just want to make sure that we don't get close to the deadline before we start that process.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think it's important to get these things done. The second thing is the town manager was nice enough to allow me to participate in the trash or recycling discussions and so on. And I just wanted to bring you up to date on that, and the townspeople as well. We have had 2 meetings since I've been on that group, and we basically set some broad directions for where we want to go, and spent much of the time, not the full time, but a lot of time on the importance of cross-training people in the DPW to be able to take on a number of different tasks, not only to deal with trash issues, but just to deal with the operation of that department, because people go on vacation, people get sick, people do one thing or another, and the more flexibility they have, the better off we all are. This next week, or this next meeting, we're going to meet with the DEP representative, who is basically our principal contact, to talk about what other towns are doing, where the state is going, and get a broad overview of the issues. Not that we don't have quite a bit of information now, but we want to keep current and let folks know that we're interested in moving ahead. Last Thursday, after our Wednesday meeting, Ms. Lehane and I were on a call with the Mass Solid Waste Advisory Committee. It was a Zoom meeting. Many people were there. All of the DEP people involved in the various regions and other offices of the solid waste program were participating in that. And there were a lot of other folks, some communities, and consultants and so on, sort of catching up on where the state was headed, what grant programs were available, and there are a number of them that are going to be looking for applications for doing things, and we'll probably get into that. Again, as I said, we're going to be talking with DEP tomorrow on that, and there is a pretty long schedule of things that we're planning to take on. We're going to be meeting with CMAS. We're going to be meeting with a pay-as-you-throw program person, recycling people, the Avon Recycling Center. We'll be talking with them. Another waste facility that's interested in doing work here, and talking with the schools as well. Now, I say all of that because it's surprising. We had a discussion about solid waste a couple weeks ago, and it seems a certain portion of Facebook sort of lit up a little bit. And I guess I'd like to remind people that a year and a half ago, the DPW, the town, implemented a new program in how we dealt with solid waste. Surprisingly, we were successful for some people who might not have thought that we could get out of our own way. The price of getting rid of solid waste went up. Our costs went down because we changed the waste stream. We changed the way we did business in terms of bringing things to CMAS. So our costs went down, but you'd never know it when you read what is going on. So I would suggest that folks have a little bit more positive attitude toward it. We're not trying to put anything down anyone's throats, but we have a responsibility to look ahead and figure out where things are going. Now, I probably have bored you folks to death, talking about capital plans, talking about making sure that we lock down the Cedar Swamp for water supply, dealing with some intersections in town, and dealing with just infrastructure needs. And those are all long-term things. So this isn't something that's sort of a flash in the pan issue. It's something that we're all supposed to be doing. And so maybe people could suspend disbelief and let us get about our business and move on. So I just wanted to let you know what was happening.
So
Thank you. And you might want to, if I could ask the town manager if I've missed something, I'd appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman?
of course.
Thank you, Mr. Gito. I want to sincerely thank Mr. Gito for his involvement in this working group. And I want to let the public know that we meet in this conference room every Wednesday at 11 a.m. If there are people with nothing to do at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, they're welcome to come in and sit in on the presentations we have scheduled for the next 10 or 11 weeks. Many of the groups Mr. Gito made reference to. The end result of this 3-month process will be to publish a report of what we know of the industry, what we know of our options, a lot of cost analysis, and no decision will be made on any changes without, first of all, asking for a board vote, but that following multiple information sessions where the public will be invited in to hear the data, share the data, ask questions, and the like. We're not in a hurry to fix the problem as much as we're in a hurry to identify the challenges we've got looming before us right now. And we'll do that in the light of day with full transparency. We've invited our union employees from the sanitation division of DPW to send a representative because this impacts them more significantly than any other union representatives. And I appreciate what Mr. Gito said in terms of, let's take a breath and take a step backwards. If we have a looming crisis, we have an obligation to identify it, to quantify it, to describe it, and to propose solutions. And that's all we're trying to do right now. No decision will be made in a haphazard way or without the affirmative vote of a very informed select board. And so I thank Mr. Gito for his involvement. He's added tremendous value. We actually have a lot of laughter in the room, which is always fun. But we're getting a lot done. And I would invite another member of the board. Of course, we can't have a quorum. But if you've got interest in this issue, every Wednesday, 11 o'clock, it's the next 12 weeks are major presentations by outside external groups. And we should have a very informed working group. And those of the public who choose to attend by the time we're done. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that opportunity. And Lou, thank you for your contributions. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I would like just to make one quick comment. That is that so long as I'm chair, I would not put this on an agenda until we had something that was fully baked. I know you both appreciate this and would expect nothing less. But for people of the public, I want to let them to know that that there's not going to be there will be no secret meetings. There's not going to be any quick action. Just we're not going to do that. We're going to move slow. Make sure that people have plenty of time to hear the information, digest it, comment on it robustly. And even when we start having hearings, I would imagine that there might be a lot of people who have a lot of questions that they'll bring to the meeting. And we will continue that public hearing until people feel like they've been heard, that their input has been integrated, and this is going to be a collaboration that with the public. I'm going to insist on that. I'm sure people would expect nothing less. Okay, I know Vice Chair Carrera wanted to be heard as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the town manager, everybody that I bump into, and thank God it's winter because it'd be a lot worse than it is. Why are we losing our trash? Why are they taking our trash away from us? How much is left on the contract? I think there's either 5 or 6 years left on the contract. I don't see CMAS folding up their tent and walking away in 5 years. They are well vetted. They know what they're doing. I don't want people to panic that we're going to lose the type of pickup that we have. So I'm not involved in these things. I can't take 11 o'clock and go in that room. I don't have that luxury. I'm sorry. I would like to be there because I want to stand again for the residents and I want to keep what we got. If we have to tweak something or something like that, I don't think we have to dump the whole force because, you know, they closed a dump out in Iowa. CMAS, if we're always given the opportunity to get the best break out of them, we have been doing that. We get the best break than anybody can see in this state right now. So I won't abandon the residents. I mean, they count on that. We'll do what we can and fix. They willfully raised their thing last year, their rate, and I had to explain to them, you don't throw a mattress out every week. You're not throwing an air conditioner out every week. You're not throwing a bureau out every week. The only people who are doing that are the ones that are renting and causing problems to us, and we kind of fixed that a little bit. But they're willing to pay for that, and I'm hoping that we can still work it into that. And then when it gets to that point where we have to do something about trucks or whatever, then we'll do it. But right now, it's like Lou said, it went down. And I attest that to the deal Tom made in Avon and the way we did it. So that's all I have to say.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman, may I?
Yes.
I just want to tell the Vice Chairman I completely agree with him. I really do. And all I ask for is the board members' help in communicating with our community. The community trusts you. And I know why, and I appreciate and respect why. No one is trying to shut down trash. I have no clearer way of saying that. There's no need to take an opposing position against the way we're doing it. All we're trying to do is identify possible solutions to a well-stated problem of EPA and DEP. They're the ones telling us your world is going to change. Boy, I'd love for it to have CMAS say, we'll extend you for another 10 years at the same price. You know, major concern averted, no question about it. But it's just as likely that CMAS could send out a letter saying, we're giving you a 90-day notice of termination of our contract due to national conditions beyond our control. And how would we look at that time if we weren't prepared to respond accordingly? So that's all we're doing. And I want to speak directly to the public with my total integrity on the line. I'm with Scott on all of this. And I want people to know we are not trying to take away your trash program. We hear you. We know you love it. But we do have a fiduciary obligation to research what we're being told by the regulators, that there are dark clouds hovering over it that are going to change the way we're able to do business. And all Lou and I and the other members of the working group are doing are studying the extent of the problem and the possible solutions to that problem. I'd ask everybody to imagine if we just did nothing. And after the last round of Facebook posts, I was tempted to just do nothing. And if in 18 months or 18 days or 3 years from now we got notice of termination due to national crises of solid waste disposal, people would say, what did you do? What are our options? Why haven't you prepared us for this? That's my responsibility. It's my fiduciary obligation. So I need each member of the board, when asked about this in the donut shops and the coffee shops and on the roads of Stoughton, to ask people to, if they're able, to just trust us. We're trying to prepare for the potential for a crisis. We will not make any changes without full engagement of everybody. And I've got this strong belief, it's always served me well that when reasonable people look at good data, they typically reach the same conclusion. And so our job is just to give the residents an understanding of the outlook and possible strategies and tactics for addressing what may or may not come. We just want the plan on the shelf, ready to go. And I need all of your help in expressing that to the people who cast their votes for this board, because this whole narrative that they're trying to steal our trash is so unfortunate. It prevents us from doing what we need to do to serve the citizens of the town. So, Scott, I really appreciate your voice in this community, and if you could assure people
I
of what we're trying to
appreciate
do.
you answering the concerns so that they did hear it now.
I know they're real, too.
Everybody heard what we're up against.
And I
so-
know the concerns are real. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. As we go forward discussing this in probably very future meetings, it sounds like you've got work ahead of you. We will reiterate all of this and really
Thank you,
make
Mr.
sure
Chair.
that there's a pragmatic side to this, and there's also just a very people who aren't from here might think it's silly, but this is something that is an important part of our culture. And it's a service that people really respect. They love the people who do it. They have a huge respect for the DPW and the men and women who work there, and the trash pickup collectors, and so it's just part of who we are. And we'll just reiterate the fact that we all understand that here, and we're going to be very respectful of that department and the fact that people care very deeply about this program. We nevertheless will have to do an analysis that's pragmatic, and we'll have to all look at it and figure out how we move forward as a community. But certainly, as I think Mr. Gito said, nothing is going to be rammed down anybody's throat. It's going to be a full vetting with plenty of time for people to ask questions, to understand the materials, have them available to them, and also to express their feelings about it. Thank you very much. So that was, I always feel bad when that happens. Though this was important to discuss, we only got through one member. Let's move on to the next. Ms. Roberts, do you have any further comments or any comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for recognizing me. Two comments. One is on the Veterans Memorial Square policy, and the second is on PFAS. So I just wanted to remind everyone on the board and the public, at a most recent select board meeting, we talked a little bit about the policy being slightly outdated. The committee members were slightly upset because they weren't involved in a process that should have included them. And offline, I did have a conversation with you, Mr. Chairman, so the public knows, and I volunteered my time and services to work with a select board member to update this policy and work with the Veterans Services of Stoughton and present it to the board so we can ratify the policy. And I'm happy to do that, and I believe it was me working with Mr. McCrisky. I just need some verification of that. And I think we could turn this around, and this means make the edits, make people feel comfortable, and present it to the board so we can vote on it. Maybe by our next board member or whenever you have an opportunity to put it on our agenda. So that's one thing. I'm happy to work on that. The second is the PFAS levels. So I received in my tax bill a notification that the PFAS levels for the fourth quarter of 2024, and this was at the Goddard Well location, were above standards. And the notice also stated, please share this information with others who may not know about this information, like nursing homes, people that live in apartments, and on and on. So I'm doing that, raising the issue, bringing it to our select board meetings so the audience can hear. But through you, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask Mr. Coulter, how did that happen? Can you give a little more data? We know that there is an exposure and there is a risk related to PFAS, but how did the levels get escalated and how concerned should we be?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have not been notified that they have been escalated above standard. What I do know is that there are pending regulations for meeting standards that have not been enacted yet. So my sense is, and again, I would need time to research this for you, Deborah. My sense is that the readings are higher than the standards that are being promulgated. They are not in effect yet. We do know that. The standards are changing all the time. 2 years ago, they were the parts per billion. Now they're in the parts per trillion in terms of standards. The EPA, as you can imagine, is under threat of closure. Those regulations in the last 5 days seem to be up in the air all over again. We don't know where PFAS regulations will go beyond this year. There is no reason for concern. If there were, I would have been notified. They're not growing. We're just talking about current actual readings versus standards that are being promulgated for the future, which would mean that we need to take additional treatment action, which is not a technical thing, it's an investment. And we will meet whatever standards the EPA puts forth when they're expected to be at that level. But I wasn't prepared for that. So I don't have any more information than that. I'm not concerned at all about the quality of our water. I am concerned about the craziness of the standards. But hopefully the EPA will get its act together and we'll know what they expect of us. Thank you, though.
And thank you, Mr. Coulter. And that's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. With regard to PFAS, every time this comes up, the one thing I just want to emphasize is that town water does have, I don't know if it's online yet, but we are either building the infrastructure to mitigate PFAS in the water or it's already done. I'm not aware of it being done, but I know that we've had a recent article about that in a town meeting. So we're working towards that. The community is, and we've had the appropriations from town meeting to do it, and we're making progress. The thing that always frightens me is that people who are on wells will have no access to these technologies, and there's PFAS in your water too, and it's nasty stuff. So if you're on a well, it might be worth looking into getting it tested, and where you go from there, I don't know, unfortunately. But if you're able to tie into water from the town, that might be a good call. You get to do whatever you want, but just be mindful of the fact that PFAS is in well water as well. Okay, let's move on. Next, Vice Chair Carrera, any comments? No. Excellent. Getting us back on track. Mr. McCrisky. No comments? Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much to the members of the Select Board. I have no comments. I'd like to move on to the Town Manager comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got several, so I'll be very quick. Just we ask residents to get back to the Water Department when called. We're having difficulty during these winter months getting into many properties to do manual readings on the old meters. The new meters, as you know, the CADA system, we can read remotely, but the old meters, which will be finished by hopefully the end of this year, will be replaced by the end of this year. We have to get into the home. And if we can't get into the home, you're likely to get a bill that's not reflective of the prior period, but several periods. So I just ask that residents return those calls from the Water Department seeking the opportunity to get in and read the meter. Second point, I want to invite the board, if you're available, to ALICE training, and I don't believe this would require a posting. ALICE is the training offered by our police department for those of us in the public space to defend ourselves against potential threat of intruders. That program will begin at, excuse me a minute. That program will begin at 4:30 on Thursday with the desktop review of what we would do, what the employees of the town would do if they were in the building and an intruder were to enter the building. It's a very intense study period that's specific to this building. And then the next morning, the town hall will not be open to the public because we're doing the actual reenaction or field training for ALICE training offered by the police department. ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. It's training that has not been done here in the past. It's critically important that we do it in this building and in other public-facing buildings. I attended ALICE training years ago. It is incredibly insightful and helpful, where it takes all the thought process out of what we would do should there be an intruder. And this is not in response to any particular danger, just in response to the realities of our society right now. And I'm really looking forward to this training. It's a responsibility I've been thinking about for a long time. The third piece of information I've got for you is on the police chief. I have formally informed her of the board's desire to extend her contract. She and I will be engaging in a preliminary draft of her expectations, and I'll be communicating that to the board as soon as Donna and I can sit down and discuss it. As you know, it's a busy time with the budget going through Finance Committee, but it's a priority for both of us, and we certainly will have that criteria to the board as soon as possible. Number four, in response to Mr. Stagnone's comments, I would just like to say publicly that each of you have expressed to me the desire to reduce the burden on taxpayers of building a South School. I want you to know we're researching that in a number of ways. There are offsets and there are benefits afforded to our citizens that we're doing deep research and deep dive on right now. And Mr. McCrisky is hosting a seminar at 3 locations, at the Temple, two at the COA, and 1 at the library. In addition to that, I really do appreciate the perspective of Mr. Stagnone, but I will tell you that we've been dealing with bond counsel, our financial advisor, DOR, and the Department of Local Services, getting their counsel, their advice, their perspective on best practices on this type of issue. So it's not that anyone is closed-minded to any suggestion any citizen makes, but we go to the experts to get counsel on best practices. And we're doing that at your instruction, and we'll report back to you prior to town meeting on what those experts are recommending. I think if there's a fifth issue is a letter from our town clerk. I would like to remind the public of a few important upcoming dates in the town election process. For the annual town election, last day to register to vote is Saturday, March 29th. The last day to apply for a ballot by mail is Tuesday, April 1st. With respect to campaign finance reports, the pre-election report is due on Monday, March 31st, and the post-election report is due on Thursday, May 8th. Please note, if you plan to vote by mail for the April 8th town election, you will need to fill out an application in person or online. The state will not send out postcards for the local elections. Please visit the town clerk's page below for additional details. And that's from the town clerk. There is a notice from our town treasurer. It's rather lengthy. I will post that on my Facebook first thing tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. So there's 2 comments I want to make based on the things you just mentioned. One is I put off getting my meter changed because I thought it was going to take a lot of time, and I just didn't have a lot of time to spare. I waited until I got the final notice, and I finally called, and that was a big mistake. It was very quick. It took, I think, a total of like 45 minutes. They're in and out. The people who are doing it are quick. They're kind. So if you're putting it off because you just don't feel like you have the time, like it actually is very fast. And it was nowhere near the experience I thought it was. It was I took a lunch break and it was done before I even wrapped up. So, yeah, definitely follow through on that if you're able to. With regard to the debt exclusion, I did want to mention one other thing that's based off of your comments. As most people know, the vote that town meeting took and the vote that's going to go before the public is for the full amount of the project. But $47 million of that will be covered by a grant by the MSBA. Yeah, that is to say that just because we take out the full amount, we appropriate it, doesn't mean we have to actually go out and issue bonds for all of that money. The reason why I mention this is that to the extent that it's possible to, theoretically not do that, that option is still available to us if it's possible. In my view, the best course of action is to have the guaranteed break in case of emergency option, where we know that our debts can be covered, our expenses can be covered, but also I think it would also be wise to, as Mr. Calder said, do everything we can to find ways of minimizing at the very least the tax bill and the amount that we have to issue. I don't think it's practical to entirely eliminate it. It's not going to be 0% debt exclusion. But for the members of the public who are curious about at least I think the orientation of this board, I think you're going to find universal support for finding ways to minimize the impact to people's taxes to the extent that we're able to. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think the character of the people here is to do that.
Here, here, Mr. Chairman, here, here.
But that doesn't change the fact that we have to have essentially what I would call it as a line of credit, which is the full amount. If we do that, then we've got something we can work with. So the next item on the agenda is town and board committee appointments. As people know, our regular practice is to have annual appointments in June, where we advertise and we get people all these applications in and we do them. But for at least as long as I've been here, we also have a policy of allowing people to apply for these things on a rolling basis if there's an empty seat. So if there's somebody who comes in the middle of the year and they want to try something, and there's an opening, we have in the past entertained that, and it's never been an issue. So that is why we have 3 people who are seeking appointments. They became aware of openings in these boards, and they volunteered to serve on them with our appointments. So the 3 that we have, we'll take them one at a time. And I really have to see an eye doctor because I cannot read who's online. But I'm not sure if it's any of the people who would be also on this. But the first one is actually Fran Brittanidi, who we have here. I don't know if you want to join us and just. You're good? Okay. Oh, of course. Do you have a comment about it in general? Yes. So, Vice Chair Carrera.
This took me by surprise that we didn't advertise for it. Any of these positions. I'm going to tell you, I don't remember anybody coming in and saying, hey, there's an open spot, I want to do it. Because under the practices, it's unfair. That's all I'm going to say, is that it didn't give anybody another chance to put in their name. We might have had somebody that could be better, maybe not. But I think it should have been advertised. That's all I'm going to say.
Fair enough. I know we've done it in the past. I'll look through agendas and bring some to your attention. But yeah, so in this case, we have 3. The first is for the Board of Assessors. There's a resignation on the Board of Assessors, and our procurement officer, but also town meeting representative and a resident of the town, has volunteered to serve on that board if we so appoint her. We've read the application. If anybody has any questions to her, I entertain those.
Yes, I entertain a motion to, or are we at the point that we're going to appoint her?
You're welcome
right
to.
now?
I mean,
Okay.
or you have to nominate her
Respect
first.
to nominate Fran Brutinelli. Udiniti. I do respectfully hear what our vice chair said, and ordinarily I would agree with that process as well, because that is our protocol. But I believe in the Board of Assessors Department, this is a critical, someone resigned, and it's a small group, and they have things to do, and they won't have a quorum. So it's urgent and unexpected. So I nominate
Second,
Ms. Fran.
Mr. Chair?
Yep. Also,
Mr. Chair?
so discussion.
Yes.
Sorry, there was a motion
and
by Ms. Roberts and seconded by, in this case, by Mr. McCrisky.
We've done this way before, and I wouldn't have any problem if we implemented a policy that we can point to and hold up and say, here it is, because I've never seen one. We have deviated from this in the past. People have come in, found out there's a vacancy on a board or commission, and we've appointed those people. So if you could find that in minutes or whatever, that's great. But I know we've done it, and it's been something that's
Actually,
gone on for years.
Mr. Houseman
So,
from the Board of Assessors was the last example of this.
yeah, okay. So,
There's, I think Mr. Hill was no longer able to serve.
yeah. No, that's it. So, I mean, we've done it. I don't have a problem putting a policy together because it's probably not a bad idea to make sure, like Scott said, you put it out there if somebody's applying and, see who else is out there. I don't have a problem, but to switch it when we've done it now, I just wouldn't, I'd have a problem with that. So, thank you.
Yeah, so this was my own call. My understanding was that this was a policy. I know we've done it numerous times. So if I offended, I apologize. But we could definitely bring it before the board for a general discussion at a future meeting. Mr. Coulter.
So, Mr. Cavey, I do understand the Vice Chairman's concern. I would say that I believe that if this happened in the first term or the first year of a first term, clearly we would go through a standard process. But as Deborah has pointed out, the assessors have raised a real concern that they're in abatement season. They come before them every day. They meet every week, and that in some cases they may be stuck in a 1-1 tie, and it's holding up us meeting our statutory requirements for responding to abatements during that window. So I spoke with Stan today. He's very concerned about this, very excited that the board is taking it up very quickly. But I also agree with yours and Joe's point and Deborah's point, this should be codified. So we take as I go back to the legislature, if somebody left 18 months into their term, it waited till the next election. If somebody left within that first 18 months, they had to run a new election. It was stipulated in statute. So I think it is good that we do it in policy.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'll put it on the next agenda and we can discuss it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if we have a problem with this and need to deal with it in June, we could appoint these people from now until June. And then when we have the regular schedule, these people can also apply for that position. So that, it appears as though, I haven't researched this, so I may be wrong, that there are vacancies in each of these positions. There are people who would like to serve, and we could go through a process of asking people to apply for, by the time we get there, we'll be in June. We could, in fact, use the couple months. I know these people. I think that they're qualified for each of the positions that they are applying for, and I think would do a good job. But I'm not shilling for them. But if we want to just deal with this until June, we could do that as well. So I don't know if you want to amend your motion or just go on however you'd like to deal with it.
Well, Mr. Chairman stated that he wanted to take them one at a time.
Yes.
So that's why I addressed the assessors, the Board of Assessors first. But I could just as well amend my motion and nominate each of them for the committees that
Second.
they expressed an interest.
Okay, so there's an amended motion to nominate Fran Bernini for the Board of Assessors. I might mispronounce this next gentleman's last name, and I apologize if I do, but
Rassicot.
Rassicot, that's how I was going to say it. I'm glad. And then that's for the Climate Action Plan Committee, and then for the Commission on Disabilities, Mike Hardman. I will mention, just in Mike Hardman's case, he resigned, I think, in December or January because of a scheduling conflict. That it sounds like immediately cleared up, and he would like to join it. He might have missed one meeting, I think, but he's been a long-serving member of that. So there's a motion to appoint all three, and those not required. There's a second for that. Any discussion?
I have discussion through you to the town manager. I wish Brian Winter was here because I have a question of him. This falls on special municipal employee status. There's a stipend involved in this assessor's job, and the person is an employee of the town of Stoughton. So you have to figure out what you're separating, because procurement does overlap into assessing. Certain pieces of property will come before the town. It's up to them to look at it. So now we're going to have a conflict of who's going to look at it. Tom's the top procurement officer in the town of Stoughton, so now he's going to be stuck doing the job. I've been through this before. That's why I'm asking that I'd like to get a ruling from Brian Winter about special municipal status, because there's been other people that had to get that status to be in committee positions at different times. And this is nothing to fool with, because this affects all the residents and decisions that are being made. So,
Well, that's not too much to ask. We'll have Brian Winter look into it and just spell out where there might be areas that we have some conflicts that we have to. I mean, there's always going to be a remedy. So, but what the path is.
The person has to have that status, because she's an employee and she's going to be taking that position that's being paid. It's like a double payment. All right, so she's going to need that.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's I know that for a fact.
So just a point of information, that issue did come up in discussions with Pam and Brian in terms of her eligibility for the position. I believe Brian told Pam you could not accept the stipend. Fran. I'm so sorry. Fran could.
Yes, he did say that.
Why do I keep doing that to you?
He also said that,
Could you?
I'm sorry. Would you mind grabbing a mic so the public can hear?
This is all good that we're talking about it. I want it in writing.
Yeah, I know.
Fran, if you could review your conversation with Brian.
yes, I did speak to Brian about this, and he said there is a small stipend that I wouldn't be eligible for, which is fine. And then he also said that I couldn't be a town meeting rep because it conflicted with being an appointed position and, the other position. So, and it was only for 3 months. This is only for 3 months.
Till the end of the term.
Yeah. So, but we can certainly get that in writing.
Yeah, we'll get it in writing. We'll get it all in writing. Perfect. Okay, so there's a motion to nominate all three members, and thank you very much, Fran. I appreciate it. It's always great seeing you. All in favor, say aye.
Pam, good.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay, and one abstention. So that's 4 yes, 0 no's, and 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, I'll ask Brian Leonard to draft that tomorrow morning, and I'll circulate it to all the members.
Perfect. I will mention also, for whatever it may be worth, I talked to Brian earlier today. He was traveling for a wake and would have otherwise attended this meeting tonight, but wasn't able to make it. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This is the approval of open session minutes of January 7th, 2025 and January 14th, 2025, as well as item B, application for a one-day alcohol beverage license and entertainment license application, Ahavath Torah Congregation, 1179 Central Street on March 16th, 2025. Okay, there's a motion to accept the consent agenda by Mr. Gito and seconded by Ms. Roberts. Is there any discussion? Anybody want to discuss anything? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it passes unanimously. And the final item on this agenda for tonight is, and I want to see the time, oh my gosh, we actually caught up pretty much. It's a public hearing for PVG Hospitality Incorporated, doing business as Hampton Inn at 445 Page Street. It's consideration of cancellation, revocation of liquor license. Both may be taken. As is our policy, our vice chair, who has extensive experience with public hearings, will be running this section of the meeting. He is, for the purpose of this, the acting chair. All comments should be directed through him, and I'll hand it over to him. Thank you very much, Vice Chair Carrera.
Thank you, Mr. Cavey. I will read the notice. In accordance with General Law 138, Section 77, the Stoughton Select Board hereby gives notice of a public hearing being held February 18, 2025 at 8 p.m. to give PVG 5 Hospitality, Inc., DBA Hampton Inn, the licensee located at 445 Page Street, Stoughton, Mass. 02072, and our representatives an opportunity to update the board regarding its failure to continue to conduct the business license, General Law 138-12, to serve all alcoholic beverages on the premises. The license risks cancellation of its license for failure to conduct the licensed business under General Law 138-77 unless 1. begins operating the licensed business, 2. files an appropriate application to transfer the location or license where the license will be conducted in the licensed business, or 3. files an appropriate application to transfer the ownership of the license to a licensee that will conduct the licensed business. The hearing will be conducted at the Great Hall, 3rd floor, Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass., and/or virtual and via Google Meets and broadcast via Stoughton Media Access Television and live stream. Google Meets video link and telephone connection for the public comment available by calling Select Board Office 781-341-1300, extension 9212, or email gpereira@stoughtonmass.gov. I'll entertain a motion to open the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is Miss Morgan in the room?
I am present.
All righty.
Good evening.
We have the ad that was put out. We have Mr. Cavey's letter. Do you want me to read this, Steve? Or you want
I'll read it. Thank you very much. So the letter that we wrote, addressed to Sandra Morgan, PVG 5 Hospitality Incorporated, doing business as Hampton Inn at 445 Page Street, Stoughton, Massachusetts, 02072, regarding Hampton Inn license to serve alcohol beverages. Dear Ms. Morgan, it has come to our attention that PVG 5 Hospitality Incorporated, doing business as Hampton Inn, hereto referred to as the licensee, located at 445 Page Street, Stoughton, Massachusetts, 02072, has ceased conducting the business licensed under General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, to serve all alcoholic beverages on premises. Please be advised that under General Law, Chapter 138, Section 77, the local licensing authority may, quote, after hearing a reasonable opportunity, therefore, cancel any license under General Law, Chapter 138, if the licensee ceases to conduct the licensed business. Accordingly, the Stoughton Select Board invites the licensee or its representatives to appear before it on February 18th, 2025 at 8 p.m. at Stoughton Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Massachusetts, 02072, Great Hall, so that it has the opportunity to update us on its failure to conduct the licensed business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I let you read in Ms. Morgan, I'm going to read some information that is in the packet that pertains to things, and then I'll turn it over to you, ma'am.
Okay.
We have workers' compensation that shows they're an employer with 15 people, but the business type needs to be filled in. Nobody filled it in on what type of business that it's for. It says,
Well, okay.
it has a list, and then it has number 12 says other. So if you're doing other, you got to give us an idea of what's going on that piece of paper there. I do have something from the sanitarian. Lawrence Perry, it says the above referenced property is currently being utilized as a temporary shelter and being managed by a private entity with oversight authority by the state. Since we were notified that the former hotel operations were converted to shelters by the state, this property has not been, nor is it presently permitted, nor inspected by the Board of Health for any normal Board of Health operating permits. Hotel, pool, food establishment associated with public hotels. We have an updated one as of February 10th. It says, as of this date, as far as the Board of Health has been notified, the above referenced property facility is still currently being utilized as a temporary shelter and being managed by a private entity with oversight authority by the state. Since the Board of Health does not current license nor permit these facilities at this time, it has not been inspected by the Board of Health for any normal hotel associated Board of Health operating permits, including but not limited to public hotel, public or semi-public swimming pool, food establishment for on-site retail sale and preparation of food for the public. The Board of Health has previously received applications in 2024, but those submittals were incomplete, and the applicant has since informed the Board of Health they will resubmit completed application in the future. And if returning to hotel operations at the time, pre-operation inspections would then need to be scheduled, and only after receiving completed application and all fees, hotel food service and pool operation permits could only be issued at some future date unknown at service and pool operation permits, pending review and future submittals and completion of all associated inspections. We also have a letter from Jack Erickson, who is the building inspector commissioner. This letter is in response to having asked this office for a letter regarding the current use of the Hampton Inn and the above-mentioned address. Currently, the building is being used as a temporary emergency shelter for housing migrants. As such, as it does not fall under the use and occupancy classification of 310-3 residential group R1, which includes hotels. And last is from Chief Donna McNamara. The Stoughton Police Department has no objection to all but one 2025 license applicant renewal. The only objection is the police department is with the renewal of the all-alcoholic license for the Hampton Inn. The Hampton Inn, 499 Page Street, is the location of a shelter, and it is not original intended use as a hotel. All right, it's all set for you, Ms. Morgan. Tell us how you want to
Okay.
proceed.
I'm sorry, I've never done a hearing before, so we are going to be reopening as a hotel in September of this year. It is still currently being utilized as a temporary shelter, but it will be changing back over to operating business as a hotel September 2025. Therefore, what we use the liquor license for is we used to have a conference center, but that is now being taken down, and we are building another hotel on the end of it, which has all been gone through the town. And per Hilton, we need to serve beer and wine or be able to sell beer and wine behind our front desk. And I did send a letter earlier to Kelly regarding all this. So do you have questions?
Does anybody on the board have questions of what they just heard?
Do we have the letter that that was sent?
Sounds like it was sent to Kelly. It was not part of our package, I don't believe.
I don't believe, Mr. Chairman, I don't believe I've seen that letter from Kelly, but I think what Ms. Morgan is suggesting is the letter is notification that you intend to convert back to a hotel
That is correct.
and that you would be reapplying for a liquor license pursuant to your closure of the shelter.
Well, what we would like to do, I mean, I don't know how difficult it is to obtain a liquor license, but we were in the hopes of retaining the liquor license to be able to serve the beer and wine or sell beer and wine.
May I continue, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So I think what I'm hearing you ask for, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that you're ready to document reopening of the hotel in September, and you're
Correct.
asking for continuation of your liquor license. Now, I don't believe, and I could be wrong, did you reapply for the liquor license on January 1st?
There was, okay, so Kevin, might have to jump in here as well. Kevin's also with Geary Hotels, but we did apply for, I do believe we did apply for the liquor license
But not as a hotel?
as a hotel, as PVG 5 hospitality.
And it seemed like the holdup was the fact
Do you have
that
some?
we weren't operating as a hotel and weren't having the necessary health inspections and all that go along with it. So from the letter I read, they called it some sort of umbrella license, which had to do with all of the licenses combined.
I don't believe we have anything called an umbrella license.
Yeah, so whoever just spoke, could you identify who you are and what your relationship is to this case?
Kevin Corvo, I'm a regional
I can't hear
manager
him.
of Geary Hotels.
Yeah, I apologize. Give us a second. We're having difficulty hearing you, and I'm not sure if we can turn the volume up over here. If we are, we will. Let me just check to see if we can do that. Nobody could. Okay. No. So I think the volume's been turned up. Would you mind just giving us, I guess, this time just a sample so we can hear if we can see if we can hear you?
Kevin Corvo.
Okay, thank you very much. We're able to hear you. Would you mind repeating what you said earlier because we didn't hear any?
Who is he, first of all?
Yeah. What is your relationship in this case?
I'm a regional manager with Geary Hotels.
He's not going to be.
You made a comment earlier. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, when we were looking for the liquor license, they were saying kind of what you just mentioned earlier, that we weren't operating as a hotel and we weren't having the proper health inspections. So therefore, we were unable to get that liquor license because they all were combined in a sense. Where if you didn't have the other two licenses, you weren't allowed to have the liquor license or continue having it.
Well, that's the regulations, and I'm a little confused on how you're going to add on to that building when you abandon the use as a hotel and you went before the zoning board to get more building space. I don't understand that. I don't even know how it was legal.
Yeah, so our options here are limited as a licensing authority for alcohol. I mean, it is a matter of fact that you're not operating as your the type of business that you're licensed for. You are not operating as a hotel. The liquor license was granted based on that licensed business. The idea of providing a liquor license to a shelter is something that is not going to sit well with many people. And I can't think of another example of a shelter that has a liquor license. And so that's where we are, where the options that you have are to actually begin operating the licensed business that you, the business that you're licensed under. Another option is to file an appropriate application to transfer the location of the license to where the licenses will conduct the licensed business. Transfer it to another hotel, or to file an appropriate application to transfer the ownership of the license to a licensee that will conduct the licensed business. There's the one thing I will add is that the ABCC gives a business a 6-month cure period or an opportunity to fix this. It's something that they ask licensing authorities to also honor. But it is the middle of February, and 6 months from now doesn't get you to September. So unfortunately, we can make it pursuant to these things, but it sounds like any decision that we make pursuant to a 6-month cure, but it doesn't sound like that's part of your plans. And so the law from our side is pretty clear that this is an inappropriate use of a license. I'll let other people say their opinion of the law as well. But I'd like to hear some feedback based on just those sets of facts.
So I completely understand what you were saying. And if that, we won't be reopening until September. So, and we probably will not, transfer the license anywhere else. So we will, abide by what you decide.
I do have one question. This is something that I've heard, and I from trusted sources. I do want to confirm though with you. My understanding is that the way in which you you started operating as a shelter was through an RFP process with the state. The state was looking for locations that would elect to serve this purpose. And my understanding is that your business elected to do this. This was voluntary on your behalf, and it would have been an agreement that you entered into with the state. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, I have no further questions, but I'll turn it back over to the vice chair.
Mr. Gito, do you have any comments to add?
My comments are that this is not at the current time a hotel.
Correct.
And it shouldn't have a liquor license at the current time. However, there is a building there that is apparently going to be fixed up, maybe expanded. I don't know the answer to the expansion, but and it is going to be fixed up to be a hotel again. And I presume that it would go through the process of being inspected to make sure that it's habitable and in good shape. Whatever the business decisions were of the company in terms of responding to an RFP to be converted to another use, they are now going to move from that use to a prior use or a different use, whatever it might be, that could be a hotel again. I have heard some people express concern about its being a shelter. It's taking the path to be a shelter and may or may not want to consider that in terms of the reapplication for a liquor license. I would suggest that you look at that process from a different perspective. There is a building that, if it is habitable and if it's set up to be a hotel and it were bought by a friend of yours in an open exchange, and that person came in to get a liquor license, would you hold that person to the standards of having made a decision to use it as a shelter as a sort of a reason not to give a liquor license? I think that we should be careful about all of those kinds of discussions, because I don't think that they have any bearing on the decision to either grant or not grant a license back to that operator. And I have no knowledge of any of the people involved in this process, nor do I expect to have any. But the question that was asked is a legitimate question, but it has all sorts of different kinds of implications to it. And I think we need to be careful in terms of going down. I am not objecting to the question. I am making sure that we look at this process in an open fashion, because people are going to be spending money on the project to get it back in shape to be a hotel. And if I'm through.
To the extent it's useful,
Thank you.
oh, sorry, you're running this meeting.
Deborah, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I just want confirmation that, because a lot has, a discussion has occurred, but the core elements, current and confirmation is required for me. Currently, it is not the use based on the original application, which was a hotel wanting a liquor license. So that use has gone away, it's discontinued. That's what we are discussing right now today.
Correct.
And the representative, Mrs. Morgan, stated she's in agreement with that. It's not the hotel based on the use of the original application. So I believe we're ready to move forward with discontinuing the license, the all alcohol license, until they reapply for whatever the use will be in the future. Right now, that's what we're voting on, what we're discussing, what's going on right now, what's going on within the next 6 months. And that's it.
You got this, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
have this, and I have the 6 month. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah. Mr. McCrisky? Nothing? Steve?
I have no further questions and no more comments. Thank you.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, Mr.
I
Calder.
would like to bring some information to the attention of the members. You know, I'm typically very supportive of businesses moving into town, and this board has always encouraged me to treat new businesses as partners. All I want to make you aware of is this business did not treat the town of Stoughton as its partner when it moved out. We knew nothing about it. I was informed by the governor's office the day the homeless population started moving in, and there's been substantial financial consequences to that. I had to convince the administration to keep us whole on the lost room tax, which is about $500,000 a year. And for fiscal 25, last year, was that 25?
Yeah.
We were kept whole. But for the 8 months of the current fiscal year, so that would have been 24, for the 8 months of this current fiscal year, we have not received a dime. Now, I've been given a verbal assurance by the administration that they will keep us whole. It's a verbal assurance. The money, the request is in a sub-budget before the legislature right now. It may or may not pass. But the applicant didn't worry much about our financial condition when they changed the status of their business in the dark of night. And I don't think they're concerned about the 8 months we're in the RIAS to the tune of $350,000 with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Putting those feelings aside, I agree with Ms. Roberts' analysis, is if the board's will is to terminate this license, my suggestion is you invite the applicant to start anew, knowing they've got a 6-month lead time to become a hotel again. That's more notice than we were given. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I just want to let everybody know that the fire department, the police department, and Board of Health has incurred timeless, unlimited response to this place. I won't get into what it was about, but we were utilized pretty hot and heavy up in that area. I got some other calls from some businesses up there about the meandering of the migrants and hanging around. And so there's a lot of things that have taken place that kind of put a black eye into us. Chairman Cavey.
Thanks. So, obviously the applicant can tell that we're, in this case, that we're a little bit chapped, that the cost of the town between police, fire, loss in revenue through taxes, as well as, our schools have been hit very, very hard, and it's been a very expensive road for them. Some of the services that they've had to make available are very, very expensive services. I'm not even going to imagine what the total cost is, but I would be shocked if it's not in the millions. That the town of Stoughton has incurred millions of dollars worth of expenses because of the business decision of a hotel. And I don't know how much you made during that time, but I can tell you that this community spent millions of dollars because of the decision. That's not what we're discussing tonight. We're discussing a liquor license. I stick to the fact that shelters shouldn't have liquor licenses. That's sort of more than enough. I can put aside my feelings, but since we have an opportunity to share with you, really this is the first time you've come before the board in any capacity. Some of the concerns that we are hearing, we have heard every single day since you made this decision, and I'm sure you have your own problems to deal with as well. But this has been a very serious. We just got through COVID-19. That was probably one of the hardest times. But this is right up there as a community, what we've had to do in order to accommodate this change. I think that we are the largest town in all of Massachusetts, with regard to the number of migrants that we're caring for, and it's because of the fact that we have 2 hotels that are at capacity, and it's important that people realize it's not out of a lack of love for people and wanting to care about people and take care of people. Everybody I've talked to from the schools, from the fire department, from the police department has said that they are pushed very hard to work, and they're working very hard to accommodate, and they're happy to do it. that they want to be helpful. This is the mission of their lives, but it's taken a huge toll on them. Also, I want to also add the library. The library is a tremendous resource for language learning, for job hunting. They have a lot of resources as well, and collectively, this has been an extremely difficult time. And so, I'll be honest. To be asked to provide a liquor license to a shelter, I found a little shocking and a little bit tone deaf to what this town is going through. But regardless of all my feelings about that, strictly speaking, the law doesn't really allow for us to give a shelter a liquor license. This wouldn't make any sense.
I completely understand, and I will definitely take your remarks back to the company.
Thank you, Mr. Cavey. Joe?
Now, this is a very simple decision. Liquor licenses are handed out for the public good, and so that people have access to particular types of function halls and so forth. My opinion, we're meeting that obligation, and I don't see this in any way qualifying for a continuation of a license, of a new one. So we would have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But we have liquor licenses. We have function halls. We have another hotel. We have places that do these things. So, in my opinion, the public good is being met, and there's nothing that requires us to give one out. So I'll move forward with the motion as presented.
I'm going to go out to the public. Ms. Walsh.
Thank you for allowing me to be first. Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. I have heard other things from people, and one of the things that I've heard is people that want to have a wedding or a function in Stoughton and rooms for the guests can't do it. But it appears that in September, they may be able to. My suggestion is that the day that the last homeless person is rehoused somewhere else and their facility is ready to be inspected as a hotel, then they can file for the license to serve alcohol. And the inspections can be made and things will move along. I'm hoping that there's at least one license available. And I think there is. I just don't think, I know that there's a lot of anger, and I know there's a lot of no one told me and things like that. But we have to kind of put that in the rearview mirror. And like I said, the last homeless person is rehoused. The facility is ready for inspection. I don't want our town's employees go down there and have to make out a shopping list of 70 or 80 things that have to be done before the building will pass inspection. They should get it back to what it should be, shiny and clean, any holes in the walls repaired, whatever, so that when our sanitarian goes down or our police or fire, all the fire extinguishers are in the right place and everything's ready to go. Not, we'll be back in a week or we'll give you 30 days. The onus should be on them to be ready for our folks to come in and make the approvals. That, if that doesn't happen, if they apply for a license and our folks go down and come back with a shopping list of things that have to be done, then I'll be as angry as some of you are.
I don't take it that we're angry. We're just looking to do what the law allows us to do. And there's a lot of questions that needed to be brought up, so I didn't see anybody up here make any direct attacks or ugliness. We were stating facts, and we're going by something that was given to us from town council and what we know about our liquor licensing. And Ms. Roberts said it short and sweet, and I agreed with her 10 minutes ago. So I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So made, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 What is the wish of the board?
Mr. Chairman, sorry, Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr.
Just before
Cavey.
somebody answers, I do want to just relay the fact that at our previous meeting, we had made a motion to cancel this license, and we voted that this meeting just is essentially the words has escaped me. But
Would you speak a little bit louder?
Yeah. So
Thank you so much.
when we met in December, we voted to cancel this license then. And this meeting, a public hearing, is required to complete that full process. This is the public hearing to do it. The motion would be not to cancel the license, but to reaffirm our December vote
Yes.
to cancel or to not cancel. You can do. There's a lot of choices that people make. I'm not going to put words in the mouth, people's mouths, but we did vote to cancel it. If we're proceeding with that idea, then it would be a motion to
Reaffirm the
reaffirm
board's
that
vote.
vote.
Motion to reaffirm.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Roberts and a second by Mr. Gito. Is there any other person wants to be heard on the board on this?
Yeah, there's actually, thank you very much for doing that. I would ask for a friendly amendment. I should mention this as well.
Go ahead,
That
Steve.
that one of the other things that town council did mention was that 6-month period, and as part of it, I just make a friendly request for a friendly amendment to include the fact that we will not move this along to the ABCC until that 6-month period has elapsed, and this is 6 months. Oh gosh, the language is kind of specific.
6 months.
So
to
6
cure-
months to cure the non-use and set a date for cancel. So that's what we were done that. So I think that the clock starts when they receive notice that that they had a cancellation, which would have been our December meeting. So it's 6 months from December, which brings it, I think, into June. But regardless, we'll make sure we have the right numbers, the right 6 months, but that we not actually transmit this to the ABCC until that 6-month period has elapsed.
So is that an amendment
Will
to
you
the
accept
motion?
that amendment?
Why don't we read the whole thing? And
I apologize. Maybe I didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm rambling. But the friendly amendment is to include the fact that this will not be transmitted to the ABCC until after the 6-month cure period has ended.
and you're happy with that, and I'm happy with that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes. The license is canceled, a 5-0 vote. Ms. Morgan, do you have anything you want to add?
No, have a great evening, everyone.
All righty. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, my mic was off. Thank you very much, Vice Chair Carrera, for running that public hearing. That concludes the business for the Select Board for this evening. The time is 8:44. Excellent. So there's a motion to adjourn by Mr. Cheeto, seconded by Vice Chair Carrera. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, have a wonderful evening, everybody. As I mentioned, the time is now 8:44. Be well.